subscribe to our channel and come back to watch our videos. It's Luca, and for a while now I've been meaning to put up a video about figuring out that I was part of a system, because a lot of people, when they hear about it, are shocked that they hadn't noticed, because they think, but all these people are completely different, why didn't I pick up on it before? And they are also surprised to hear that before I started the diagnostic process, I had absolutely no idea what was going on and that I was part of a system. So yeah, it's nowhere near as obvious as people think it is. I mean, I assume in some cases it can be. Some people are very clued up and aware, and communication is good from the beginning between alters. But for us, and I know for several other people we know, that is really far from the case. So this is basically going to be me talking about the weird series of coincidences that led up to me figuring out that I was the host of a system. So in perspective, I was quite young when I was starting to figure out that I had alters. I was 17, 18 when things really started to sort of get confusing for me. I didn't really know what was going on, like things I couldn't explain were happening. And basically I was living with a partner at the time, and one day I got a text from Twitter, and I don't use Twitter really, I never have, I still don't. And it was basically suggesting or like confirming that we had recently changed a password. And obviously my partner was like, are you sure that's like right? Has someone been using your email address? You know, this kind of stuff. And I decided to check that, you know, nothing sort of weird was afoot. And I say that now like there wasn't something really weird afoot at the time. But so I found the account, and it was a whole very active Twitter run by somebody under the name of Christopher, who was, you know, up-to-date photos of me, like, you know, everything that stuff that we would be doing and things like that. But he was using a different name, a different gender at the time, just a completely different person with my face. And obviously, when I tried saying that I couldn't explain what was going on to my partner, they had trouble sort of understanding and getting on board with that, and I think that's completely understandable, given that I had no idea what the ID was, he didn't either, and I was trying to say, no, this account, which is clearly me, isn't actually me, because I don't remember doing any of it, even though the photos were not uploaded anywhere else. They were regular, personal kind of pictures. And so from there, I decided that it was time to start figuring stuff out, because I'd started to piece it in with the fact that I was always down in my bank account, parcels turning up that I didn't remember ordering, that kind of stuff. So I was like, this is actually very strange, and I should probably do something about that. And it took like a long time from there. But I was lucky enough to meet a therapist who was very clued up about dissociation and dissociative disorders, and she mentioned it to me, so I was like, what? Like, I had absolutely no idea that that was how multiple personalities worked. I was like, what? Like, this is so weird. And things started to make sense from there, and I was actually at the time doing a big college project on mental health representation in the film industry. So to try and kill two birds with one stone, I started doing DID in the media, and from there, again, more things started to make sense, and I had this massive denial spiral, which it hasn't ended. I'm just constantly like, no, this isn't what's happening. If my system goes quiet for like a day, I'm like, oh, damn, guess I've been faking like this whole time. Or if I end up being able to communicate well enough with somebody for a few days that's better than normal, I'm like, this isn't how it works, I must be faking. But I am digressing and I've completely lost my original point. But yeah, so the media. And I thought, I'll give it a go. And I bought a journal, I started leaving notes, and I got absolutely nothing back. So I was like, great. It's not what's going on, I don't know what's happening, but it can't be that because I'm getting absolutely nothing. And I started to get more and more frustrated because I was forgetting more things, like more weird stuff was happening. My partner was getting sort of frustrated and stressed that I was behaving so like erratic and strange sometimes. And I ended up keeping this journal thing as like a weird sort of diary. I felt like a 13-year-old girl, but it was somewhere to let my feelings out, I suppose. It's healthy, okay? We can all talk about our feelings. And eventually I had like a bit of a meltdown. Pages and pages of just me just absolutely going off. And that was when, a few days later, I checked the book and I finally had a response. And it was a note from Christopher. And it basically kind of was, oh God. It was basically a note from Christopher that was kind of saying, thanks for being honest. I had no interest in communicating with you until you actually took a step to be real with yourself, that beforehand I had just been kind of trying to reach out in a friendly, sort of peaceful, passive sort of way, and it took me sort of losing my shit and being like, this is ridiculous, I'm actually really mad about it, like I don't know what else to do because I'm at my wit's end with whatever's going on. And he wasn't interested in me being all, oh, thanks for being there, I appreciate you, that kind of stuff. A lady just walked past with a dog and I got really distracted. So yeah, and at the time I thought he was the only other one in our system, but as soon as that initial barrier was broken, others started to come out over time. It was sort of a steady kind of reveal from there, I think, where we started meeting more of us. And yeah, that's basically how I came to figure it out in the first place. And like I said, it was not obvious. The only time it's become obvious to me is now I am so aware of the fact that I have and I'm part of a system. And I think, again, it's the same for a lot of people where they have absolutely no idea. It was such a shock to me that this was what was going on. And like, now it's just kind of my normal. I have my massive denial spirals all the time still, literally all the time, which again is a normal part, I think, of coming to terms with it, is you start to think, this is ridiculous, this can't be what's wrong. I've just got so wrapped up in this crazy, weird idea of imaginary friends or characters or anything to sort of try and do the opposite of come to terms with the fact that it's a real and valid thing and it's a real response to some really, really awful stuff. And it doesn't help me with my little spirals that I don't really remember a lot before I was 14, 15, because I haven't been the host for our whole life. And I mean, realistically, that should be you can't remember anything before like year 10, that's really odd. But that to me is just another issue, is that I can't remember what happened, so obviously nothing happened. And even though I'm nearly 3 years down the line now after being diagnosed and meeting others in my system, it's still a wild ride to me. And for anyone that is currently figuring it out or is new to figuring it out, and I still consider myself to be fairly new to trying to get to grips with the ID. So basically, it's a really big thing to be told, especially if you had no idea about it in the first place. If if you're aware and you communicate well with your alters, or you have done from the beginning, that's also cool. But for me, I had no idea. I was and still am very confused and slightly unsure about it sometimes. But you're definitely not the only one if you're watching this thinking, oh my god, I had absolutely no idea this was my problem. Why wasn't it obvious? Because it isn't meant to be obvious. It's meant to be a covert defense mechanism that keeps you safe. And if it was really obvious all the time from day one, it's not going to be keeping you safe. The whole point is that it keeps you away from bad stuff. And if you remember everything, if everyone could tell when you were switching and all of that stuff, it would not be safe. It would not be defensive. So, if you had no idea that you were a system before someone brought it up to you, you are now a member of my club, which is called DID, Denial Identity Disorder. And that's pretty much my whole thing with figuring it out. But it has been a wild ride. And again, if you're a new system, stick at it, because it's well worth the effort that you put in to start communicating with your alters. So just, be nice to everyone, give them space, give them time, and be honest about how you feel. And with that, I have got to go to work because I'm running extremely late.